Hi everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Sideboard Files in our HEDRON.TV. Manuel here, your host as usual, and this time we are going to do something a little bit special. We're going to talk about Legacy, a format that is very dear to me, and I have the pleasure to have here joining this show, Christopher Wilhelm, who attended recently the Frankfurt MKM series, Legacy portion of course, and managed to battle his way up to the top 8. Congratulations for the result, and welcome, Christopher.
Thanks for having me. Thank you.
Thank you for coming over, absolutely. So we will discuss your sideboard choices and your sideboard plans when it's about 4-color Deathblade, also known as Banned Deathblade.
Exactly.
So we will see your specific plans versus Death and Taxes and Ad Nauseam Tendrils.
Mm-hmm.
But first, I would like to have a quick look at your main deck configuration.
Sure.
Can you tell me a bit what the plan of this deck is and what is the core of the deck as well?
Sure. So basically the deck is a mid-range deck. Your main plan is to deploy a mana creature on turn 1 and follow it up with one of the very powerful 3-drops in True Name Nemesis and Leovold. Yeah, you back it up with cheap counter magic, basically like a Delver Shell. You have 4 days, 4 Force of Will. You have cheap removal in Thoughts of Plowshares and Abrupt Decay. Yeah, that's basically your number 1 plan. If the game goes late, you also have the Stormforge package with 3 equipments, which makes for a very powerful late game. And on top of the curve, you have 2 Jace the Mind Sculptor, which is, of course, a powerful card on its own.
The powerhouse of Legacy.
Yes, and for me, it's one reason to play the deck, because you can ramp into turn 2 True Name afterwards with turn 3 Jace, which is quite a beating for most decks in Legacy.
Okay, so we have the Stoneforge Mystic with the equipments, you have the counter spells, you have the cantrips, you have the threats, so all these cards are the core of the deck, but you do also have a few flexi slots. Can you tell me something about those?
Sure. Yeah, there are some. For instance, I chose to play a second Jace because I think it's just such a powerful card, and like I said before, the possibility of turn 3 Jace is just so appealing. There are other lists which play something like a Vendilion Click in this slot, but I prefer to have it in the board, so I have access to it for game 2 and 3. But for the main deck, I think Jace is just the overall more powerful card and offers even more flexibility for game 1. The second flex slot for me is the 4th Stormforge Mystic, because in this deck, like I said, the first plan I see with this deck is to tap out on turn 2 for a 3-drop, either True Name Nemesis or Leovold, and the Stoneforge Mystics just supplement this strategy. Yeah, they offer a great late game. The thing is, with this deck, if you draw your equipments naturally, it's not that bad, so you don't need Stoneforge Mystic to get the equipment all the time. It just supplements your overall strategy. For this tournament, I chose to play the 4th Stormforge Mystic.
When you say this tournament, you're mentioning the MKM series.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Because I think in an unexpected meta game, it's good to have the best possible hedges game 1 against a wider array of decks. And Stormforge Mystic is really, really powerful in the Delver matchup, which is quite tough. It's not bad, but not favorable, I would say, also. So
okay, so that makes perfect sense. You want to have all the possible answers already to a wider metagame.
Yes,
so
exactly.
The full set of Stoneforge.
Exactly, because Stoneforge Mystic is so good in the Delver matchup. I want the 4th copy, and that's why I went with it. So the last flex slot I see is the 4th Noble Hierarch. I wanted to play 4 because, like I said, you always want your first turn mana dog, and if you don't have it, it can be very bad because the deck only plays 20 lands, and if you don't have the mana creature and your opponent wastelands you, the deck has a really hard time playing Magic at all. So for me, it's 8 mana dogs or another deck, yeah. So there's no way around it for me. But other people are debating you only need 7 and are playing something like a Ponder in the slot instead. But I always like more consistency, so 8 mana dogs is what I play.
Okay, so the list is somehow crafted and configured to ensure the highest level of consistency.
Yes.
4 of each. In the case of Jace, just 2, but 2 and not only 1, because you want to be sure that you actually execute the plan in the way you want it to be unfolded, let's say.
Exactly. Another reason for this is the deck only plays 4 cantrips, so I want all other cards to be as consistent as possible. So I went with all the 4 offs and 2 chases.
Yeah, okay, pretty clear. I guess we set it all for the main deck, so we can start talking about the sideboard.
All right, let's go.
Already laid down here, prepared before. I will just move these actually up here, because I'm not sure that the panel with the cards will actually be visualized correctly afterwards, so better to take precautions.
Yeah.
Still, you will see the fantastic mana coasters done by a friend of mine. Pretty cool gift.
Nice.
I was really happy. Okay, going back to business and the sideboard. So you have 2 Thoughtseize, 2 Flusterstorm, 1 Vendidon Click, 2 Meddling Mage, 2 Aethersworn Canonist, 2 Containment Priest, 2 Zealous Persecution, and 2 Surgical Extraction.
Yes.
So the question that I ask everyone that comes here is basically, how did you come up with this particular sideboard configuration? Is this a sideboard that is thought for a wide field and to cover a wide range of matchups, or is it a sideboard that is crafted to address the matchups that are not really good, or the matchups that are actually pretty bad for you? Or is it a sideboard that is crafted for a specific metagame? How did you come up with this?
So basically I built the sideboard in expectation of a new metagame, because I picked the deck up after Senseless Divining Top was banned and I played Miracles before, so I needed a new deck.
So you are one of those who actually shifted from Miracles to another deck.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
I was one of those.
You needed to adapt fairly quickly.
Yeah, it was only 6 days after the ban, so I needed a new deck very quickly. And with Senseless Divining Top gone and therefore Counterbalance also leaving the metagame, I was expecting a lot of combo decks, especially Ad Nauseam Tendrils and Elves. So I decided to build my sideboard as a hedge against those, because with the deck you have a pretty bad game 1 matchup versus combo decks. So the sideboard basically needs to be all gas versus combo for game 2 and 3. So you have a better win percentage post board. And that's what you can see in the sideboard. I have basically 13 sideboard slots, which are only against combo.
Yeah, we will see also afterwards when we will discuss in depth your sideboard plan versus Ad Nauseam Tendrils.
Yeah.
You side quite a lot of cards out and quite a lot of cards in there.
Yeah, there is a lot of action after sideboard, yeah.
All right, okay. So a sideboard that is crafted mainly to address the combo matchup, which is somehow one of the weak points of this deck, especially in game 1.
Yeah, definitely.
So you want then to be prepared and at least level that to 50-50 is not having even better chances.
That's the goal, yeah.
Very good. So Vanilla Click, we already talked about that, because some people playing in the main, you want to have it in the sideboard. So I think it's pretty clear why it's there. And I would like to ask you something about the Thoughtseize. You have 2. Some people have only 1. So why do you want to have 2 of those? And then I'll ask you another question. So first, we step by step. So why 2?
2, I almost should say only 2, because Thoughtseize is such a great card in the deck. It supports the overall proactive approach or strategy of the deck. And I saw some people are playing only 1 Thoughtseize, like you mentioned, and having other cards like Pithing Needle, for instance, in this slot. But I prefer Thoughtseize because it's proactive, like I said. It's almost always good, except you draw it like turn 20 in the late game. And
this is why probably only 2 are enough, because you don't want to draw it in the later game.
Yeah, that could be one reason. Another one would be because against Delver it's not that good like Flusterstorm, in my opinion. But I think Thoughtseize is just a general awesome card, supports the overall deck strategy. It's very cool to go turn 1 Thoughtseize into turn 2 Hate Bear. And I just like the card.
And you have plenty of hate bears here.
Yeah.
Definitely. Okay, Flusterstorm, I think it's pretty clear what's that for. I mean, all the counter wars and the combo stuff, you want to make sure that when you're facing a combo matchup, they don't actually get to play their combo and just win the game on the spot.
Exactly.
The creatures, the Meddling Mage, this one Canonist, Containment Priest. Meddling Mage is another combo answer.
Yeah, it's another combo answer, but also great against Punishing Fire decks or Loam decks, because recursive engines are a bit of a problem for this deck, so it's nice to have a catch-all answer to shut those things off.
Okay.
And
Okay.
it also plays really nice along Thoughtseize. Yeah, if you go turn 1 Thoughtseize into turn 2 Meddling Mage and see what the opponent is up to, you can play
Sure.
Meddling Mage and shut the card off if you don't like to see.
Sure. You see their hand, you pick up one card, and then just name with the Meddling Mage the
Exactly.
other card, and you just dealt with 2 resources straight away.
Yeah, it's a really nice synergy to have.
Okay. When I see Aether's One Canonist, I think straight away about Storm decks. Is it only for Storm decks, or is it a card that you can also, let's say, recycle for other matchups in the same way that you just said with Meddling Mage?
It's not only against Storm. I mean, Canonist is also great against other forms of combo decks, like, for instance, Sneak Show. If you manage to resolve an Aether's Canonist and your opponent attempts to play Show and Tell, you just have to counter it, and your opponent can't counter back. So it's guaranteed that your counter spells are resolving. Successful, always resolving. And it's also a very great card against Elves, which is also, like I said, a deck I was expecting to be played a lot with Miracles leaving the metagame, because it had a pretty tough time against Miracles. And Canvas is really good versus them because it shuts down Glimpse of Nature and recursive Elvish Visionaries with Wayward Symbiotes. Yeah, it's really flexible.
Yeah, quite an asset. Quite an asset. Covers Storm, covers Elves, covers any deck in which you want to win the counter war against, basically.
Yeah.
So good sideboard economy as well. I mean, you have those 2 slots that can be used for many different matchups.
Yes.
Something similar can also be said, I believe, about Containment Priest, because Containment Priest can stop creatures that are like unfairly put onto the battlefield.
Yeah, exactly.
It doesn't matter if they come from the graveyard, or if they come from your hand, or if they come from the library. Just gets it all. And but I think it has another function, because you can also probably, we will see it later on with Death and Taxes, but shuts down either via as well.
Yeah, it has a very broad spectrum which it covers, like you said, against reanimated strategies or Show and Tell, also against Elves, very good. Yeah, blocks 1/1 Elves, shuts off 8 cards of the decks. So really nice to have. Also, Flash is a thing. Can get, in some circumstances, you can get your opponent into attacking you and flash it in. And
yeah, true. You still act as a surprise blocker.
Yeah,
why
like
not?
a nice Ambush Viper sometimes, but other times really great card versus Reanimator, Show and Tell decks.
Okay, so we are almost at the end of the sideboard here. Zealous Persecution. Now, I like this card. I like this card a lot, and I understand why it's there. I mean, boosting your creatures and killing all the 1 toughness, it's always good business. But I saw different lists also that actually still pack maybe a little bit more spot removals, like some banned Deathblade lists that have a fatal push, maybe the 4th Abrupt Decay, maybe the 3rd Soul to Plowshare.
Yeah.
So what I'd like to know from you is, why did you decide just to rely on the Zealous Persecution, and you didn't feel the need for more spot removals? Why is that?
The first reason is because the deck is pretty cold, or not cold, but has problems or difficulties dealing with opposing True Nemesis, and Zealous Persecution is one way to get rid of them. Also, it plays really nice versus the Elf decks, which is not a good matchup. So I like having all the bullets I can get versus them. Yeah, and Persecution does a great job versus them. The other thing is it counters opposing -1/-1 effects.
Oh, very true. Yes, in response.
Yeah, if your opponent plays Golgari Charm or versus Storm, they have oftentimes Massacre, and you can bring in Zealous Persecution to kind of counter that. Also versus Storm, it's great to counter Empty the Warrens or get rid of the tokens. Yeah, I just like it more than spot removal because I think the normal creatures, like Delver or Gormak Angler or Tarmogoyf are not that big of a problem for this deck.
Okay,
because
you can contain that kind of assault.
Yeah, you have already 5 spot removals in the main deck. Also, you have Umezawa's Jitte or Jace with his bounce ability if need be. So I think there's more need for an broader Wrath effect, so to say.
Yeah, so the sweeper.
Yeah, like a sweeper effect. It's just a great card.
Okay, crystal clear. Last but not least, 2 copies of Surgical Extraction. I mean, I know we all know what is that for. Targeted in graveyard, but not necessarily graveyard-based strategies only. It's also pretty good against combo, I suppose.
Yeah, of course.
And first, are there other users that this card can be put to, or is it still about these 2 categories of decks? And if so, why not Grafdigger's Cage? Why not Rest in Peace? Your choice is 2 Surgical Extractions.
Yes. I like Surgical more than, for instance, Rest in Peace or Grafdigger's Cage because basically the decks you bring it in against, like lands or Punishing Fire decks in general or Reanimated decks, they basically or can't interact with it or have a pretty hard time to interact with it. So for instance, when you play Grafdigger's Cage or Rest in Peace, they can just go ahead and Abrupt Decay it or bounce it or whatever. And Surgical, just sits in your hand until you get the best use of it. And also it exiles all the copies of the certain card. Very important versus Punishing Fire or Life from the Loam or Dark Depths or Grizzlebrand with Reanimator. And the thing that it can be played on turn 0 for free is also very, very relevant. It's basically Force of Will 5 and 6 versus Reanimator on turn 0 if you're on the draw. And plays really, really well to the deck strategy. Also nice to have with Thoughtseize. If you Thoughtseize turn 1, pick a key card, maybe against Show and Tell, and then afterwards Surgical Show and Tell. It's really strong.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So there is a sort of synergy actually in the sideboard between those 2 cards.
Yes.
And I totally understand your reasoning behind just getting this card and not the other. This card basically does what you want, and the other cards would be somehow limited in the way they can interact with the decks that you actually expect. And
it has a broader application in general here. Exactly.
Okay, so a lot of flexibility and a lot of hate for the combo matchup, which is the worst for you, apparently. Right. I guess we said it all about the sideboard, about this overview. We can start talking about the specific matchups that we have for this episode. And I would like to start with the 4-color Deathblade, also known as Buttoned Deathblade, versus Death in Taxes.
All right.
So when you play Game 2, how is your approach? What do you want to do in Game 2? What are your goals in Game 2 when you're facing Death in Taxes?
One of the goals is definitely to shut down Ether Vial because it's a really powerful card. Gets such a tempo advantage, and if you manage to shut down Ether Vial versus Death in Taxes, they are really slow. They need to tap out. They often can't make use of their Richard ports because they need them for mana. So that would be the first goal. The second goal would be to have more creature removal, so in form of sweepers. Another thing which is important to get rid of their equipments. So
the equipments, yeah.
I would say that those are the 3 main approaches versus Death in Taxes post-board.
Okay, let's assume that you won Game 1. So in Game 2, you're going to be on the draw. What do you side out and what do you side in this matchup?
So on the draw, I would side out the 4 Dazes and 2 Force of Wills. And the reason why is I think days on the draw is a little bit too slow. You can't afford to get such a huge tempo disadvantage versus Death and Taxes. Yeah,
So all 4 go out.
all 4 go out on the draw. And 2 Force of Will, because yeah, there's not that much you want to force versus them, with the exception of Ether Vial turn 1 basically. And for this you already bring I already bring in stuff, so
cutting 2 is enough, or you don't need to cut the whole playset because you still want to have a couple of forces for emergency situation, let's say, or maybe as you said, a turn 1 vial when you're on the draw, you can still answer to it if you have Force of Will in your hand.
Exactly, turn 1 vial would be a reason, and yeah, sometimes they bring in really powerful late game spells like Gideon or Cataclysm, which are force worthy. So
yes, definitely. So you want to have a hard counter to just say no to those.
Exactly.
Okay, and what do you side in?
So in come 2 Thoughtseize, the 2 Zealous Persecution, and the 2 Containment Priests. And like I said, I want to have more game versus Aether Vial, so that's why the Containment Priests come in. They are also pretty nice if your opponent tries to Flicker Wisp one of his own creatures, and you can either in response play the Containment Priest, or in response to the re-enters the battlefield trigger, so the creature won't enter but be exiled.
Yeah, sure.
And but basically it's against the Aether Vial. So the Thoughtseize are great versus Stoneforge Mystic. Yeah, you can just let your opponent play Stoneforge Mystic, fetch up the equipment, and the turn afterwards you go Thoughtseize and take it away. Yeah, get rid of it forever. That's very nice.
So you want their Stoneforge Mystic plan not to work?
No.
But your plan with your Stoneforge Mystic is going to work.
I would like that, yeah. Also, Thought of Fire and Ice is something you want to get rid of, because one of the only ways to get past your Twin Nemesis for them. So that's very important.
Okay, it's a key card that you want to remove.
Yes.
You don't want to see that on the battlefield.
Definitely.
Okay, and the Zealous Persecution, I think, is the last.
Yeah, I think they're pretty obvious. It's just a good card in general versus creature decks, which have lots of creatures with 1 toughness. Yeah, on the right board state, it can totally sweep their board. Yeah, if they have like Thalia, Mother of Runes, Flicker Wisp, or something like that, or Revoker. There are just so many 1 toughness creatures in their deck. It's just a really great card versus Death and Taxes in general.
Plenty of targets, and quite a high possibility to have an X for 1. You know, multiple creatures going away with just 1 card.
Yes.
Perfect answer.
Sometimes if you're racing, it's just the last points of damage for your creatures as well. So it's really, really, really strong card.
Okay, very good. So now we can try the opposite. I mean, game 1, you lost. So game 2, you're going to be on the play.
Yeah.
Are there any changes in your sideboard plan?
Yeah, actually, the sideboard changes a little bit on the play. In this case, I would cut only 2 dazes, because now you can go turn 1 Mana Dog and daze their Vial, or make another good tempo play. So that's the reason why I like to keep 2 dazes on the play. And therefore I now take out all the forces. Forces not that great versus Death and Taxes, like I said. There are only a few key cards which are counter or force worthy, and forces a 2 for 1, so not that great either. And on the play, I just like daze more.
So on the play, it's basically a tempo-based decision in the end.
Yes.
So you probably think, okay, if I do it right, I will just win before they have the chance to play a Gideon or something like that.
Yeah, either that, or the tempo swing will just be so huge that I can establish a board presence which is so far.
It's beyond reach for that card. So
exactly.
Even they get that card into play, it's not going to make that huge impact anymore.
Exactly.
Okay, very good. I guess we can just go on with the other matchup that we have.
Yeah.
So 4-color Deathblade versus Ad Nauseam Tendrils. And I will ask you the same question again. What is your approach in game 2? What are your objectives?
All right. So like I said, combo decks are a very bad matchup game one at least. So the approach is to bring as much hate as you can, disrupt their hand, disrupt their game plan, have answers for their combo pieces. That's basically the overall strategy, and you have so many dead cards in game one, so those are getting out, and you bring in all the good stuff you have.
Okay, so everything you have, making sure that you attack basically from different angles.
Yes.
Disrupting the hand, getting rid of the key pieces of the combo, just preventing them from executing their game plan.
Exactly.
This is what you want to do.
Yes.
Okay, again, game two, you lost game one, you won game one. Let's be optimistic first.
Okay.
So you won game one.
Not going to happen that often, but
you never know. You never know. You won game one. In game two, you're going to be on the draw. What do you side out and what do you side in when you're facing Ad Nauseam Tendrils?
All right. So actually, the sideboard plan doesn't change depending if I'm on the play or on the draw.
Okay. So on the play, on the draw, same thing. Same cards going out, same cards going in.
Exactly.
Okay. So what goes out?
So out go lots of things. I will cut 3 Noble Hierarch, 2 Swords to Plowshares, 3 Abrupt Decay, 1 Sword of Fire and Ice, 1 Stoneforge Mystic, 1 Jace, and 2 True Name Nemesis.
Oh, quite a number of cards here.
Yeah, 30 cards total.
Okay.
You need to bring a lot of hate versus combo. The reason I cut the spot removal is because they're pretty much dead cards versus Storm. Storm doesn't play any creatures besides of Extended Swarm or Dark Confident occasionally, so I feel there's no reason for spot removal, and additionally those are also covered with the Zealous Persecution, which will come in, so I want to have high impact cards versus combo, and spot removal is just bad. Also out go 3 Noble Hierarch. Combo doesn't disrupt your mana, so this is one reason why you can afford to cut those, in my opinion. Your curve does lower a bit, so the plan is not anymore to deploy turn 1 Mana Dog into turn 2 3-drop, but you want rather to go like first turn Thoughtseize, you play a Hate Bear on turn 2 or something like that, so you don't need the Mana Dog for this. I think 5 is high enough to get the turn 2 3 mana if you need them, but you don't desperately need them like you would want versus other decks.
It's not top priority anymore.
No,
the top priority is having answers to combo and make sure that you survive.
Yeah, exactly. The top priority is to stay alive and disrupt their game plan.
Okay.
So those go out as well. Sword of Fire and Ice is a bit too clunky, doesn't gain you life, so I cut this as well. 1 Stoneforge. You only have 2 equipments left in deck post-board, so I think Stoneforge goes out.
It's not your plan anymore, not your main plan anymore.
Yeah, exactly. It's, I mean, you don't want to deploy Stoneforge on turn 2 anyway, so it's just a late game card, and having 3 is totally fine. True Name Nemesis is also a card which is not that great versus Storm. It's pretty slow. Yeah, you can't afford to tap out on turn 2 or 3 because you could just die on the backswing. So
sure.
I want to cut 2 of those. The reason why I don't cut all 4 of them is not actually that I like the card in this matchup, but the blue count of the deck is pretty low, so I like to have more blue cards post board. That's also a reason why I would cut the Noble Hierarchs rather than other blue stuff, which is not that great.
You want to keep a certain number of blue cards
for the
Force of Will.
Yeah, for the Force of Wills.
To be sure that you have a pitch.
Exactly, and sometimes you get to awkward situations where you have a Force but no blue card, and that would be a disaster versus combo. So I want to make sure I have enough blue cards in the deck, even if they are not that great to play them, but just to have more pitch cards for forces. And 1 Jace also goes because 4 mana is a lot. Can't afford to play it right away when you get to 4 mana. But I like having 1 because when you have stabilized and have deployed like a Hate Bear or Thoughtseize them and know their hand, and the course is clear, you can deploy Jace and have a really nice card advantage engine for the late game.
Okay, so you actually, when you're in this matchup, you count, it's quite probable that you will get to the late game, at least mid-late game.
Yeah, I mean, of course, the plan is to get there.
Yeah, if you get
because
there.
otherwise you're already lost.
Yeah, sure.
But it's hard, and you don't want to play 4 mana spells more than once in the game. So 1 Jace. I could also see cutting the second Jace for another card, but I like having one for the late game just to get card advantage if you need to Force of Will a spell or something.
Yeah, if you get in a situation in which you stabilized and you have a Jace, it starts your engine, you can see more cards with the Brainstorm ability, let's say.
Yeah.
And it's also finisher, so yeah, it makes perfect sense. So I totally understand you keeping one in. Okay, so what comes in? A lot of cards.
Yeah, a lot of cards. Basically, everything comes in except for the 2 Containment Priests. So the 2 Thoughtseize, 2 Flusterstorm, 2 Aetherstone Canonist, 2 Meddling Mages, 2 Surgical Extraction, 2 Zealous Persecution, and the Vendilion Click. And yeah, basically all good cards versus Storm. Thoughtseize is great, also synergizes really well with the Meddling Mages. Aetherstone Canonist is really, really great card. They can combo off with this card in play, so they have to get rid of it first before coming off. Vendilion Click, great card, provides disruption and a fast clock. And Zealous Persecution, like I said, hedges against all their creatures, also great against Empty Devorance. Surgical Extraction can mess with Pass in Flames, or if you Thoughtseize, like let's say Tendrils or Infernal Tutor, it's great if you can Surgical it afterwards and basically
fantastic.
win the game on the spot.
Yeah, like the different angles that we were talking about before, the Thoughtseize, and then you can use the Meddling Mage for a card you know is already in your opponent's hand, or you can use Surgical Extraction just to get rid of all the copies of the card, making sure that that particular problem is solved forever.
Yes.
At least for that game.
Yeah.
And totally understandable and makes absolutely perfect sense. Very good stuff. All right, okay. Thank you very much, Chris, for being here.
You're welcome. It was a pleasure.
Absolutely a pleasure for me as well to have you here. And a big thank you to all of you who've been watching this video. I hope you enjoyed. We surely did enjoy making it, that's for sure.
For sure.
Stay tuned on HEDRON.TV for more content to come. For now, it's goodbye.
Goodbye.